Was Victorian Britain really das Land ohne Musik, the land without music, as some disparagingly claimed? Take opera, for example. If you discount Gilbert and Sullivan, which composers would have sprung to the 19th century mind? Balfe, Bishop, Barnett, Benedict, Loder, McFarren, Wallace. It sounds a bit like a school roll call. Certainly none is what you might call today a household name. But 100 years ago, they were. In fact, you couldn't walk into any self-respecting Victorian drawing room without stumbling across some arrangement or song by one or other of these composers. Characters like William Vincent Wallace, whose opera Maritana, first heard in 1845, was a box office triumph, the greatest he would achieve, although he went on to stage half a dozen more before his early death in 1865. Composers such as Wallace caught the British public's imagination to a remarkable degree. Their arias and operatic ballads were sung and whistled in the streets of London, Liverpool and Dublin alike during those golden years of Queen Victoria and her Prince Albert. No one would claim that these capable and prolific musicians were top-notch dramatists, any more than their hack and often banal librettists seemed to be. But what they did have in common was flair, and from that flowed success. How exactly did a composer like Wallace take London's Drury Lane by storm? Well, take some exotic setting, like Spain, pop on stage a king with a roving eye and a poor gypsy girl with a golden voice and an attractive name like Maritana, spin her a wistful tune with a mildly Hispanic flavor, dash off a suitable overture, then off she goes. Maritana's opening aria, sung by Margiela Cullach with the BBC Concert Orchestra, conducted by James Lockhart. "'Twas the King of Castile," sings Maritana. Has she second sight? For there, in a Madrid square, disguised in her audience, is who else but the real King of Spain? He's entranced by Maritana, and I rather hope you will be too. English taste at the time was for good, memorable tunes in short bursts, largely free of chromatic harmonies or heavy characterization. A London audience looking for dramatic intensity found it in the straight theatre or in the bel canto Italian style. It was left to English composers to serve up something in between, light and enjoyable, but not too demanding on the ear. Consequently, the stock plots and dialogue which found favour were rather ham, with predictable outcomes depicting the triumph of good over evil and the successful uniting in love, against impossible odds, of a slightly cardboard hero and heroine. So, how do we approach the likes of Wallace's Maritana today? The thing is surely not to worry too much about serious drama or complex music. We won't find it. But to sit back and enjoy it for the farrago it is. nearly always tuneful, and sometimes rising to the odd moment of genuine beauty and inspiration. So, on with the story. The king rewards Maritana for her song, but his gesture is spotted by an unscrupulous courtier, Don José de Santarém, sung here by Peter Sidham. Don José has his own designs on the queen and hopes to hatch a plan to win her. But first, he asks Maritana to sing another song, and a lovely cello obbligato sets the scene for her, meanwhile adding a mildly sinister counterpoint beneath Maritana's increasingly soaring bel canto. José secretly plots.
Those lovely eyes, those ruby lips, might win a brighter home for thee than Crystal Hall, where fairy trips lightly to echoes minstrelsy. Brighter prize than gems that glow on kingly brow of those a veil, yet they fade, of those a veil, yet they fade, yet they fade, for joy will quail when time or shade, for joy will quail when time or shade. Then love while love and beauty aid, then love while love and beauty aid, then love while love and beauty aid, while love and beauty aid, then love while love, then love while love and beauty aid, then love while love and beauty aid. which way's your future step? One round of triumph.
Oh, fairy wanted I command, oh, fairy wanted I command, and moonlit hour in silken bower, to music's note on air I'd float, to music's note on air I'd float.
Those sparkling eyes are brighter than gems that glow on kingly brow of those of veil, and yet they fade, for joy will quail when time or shame, then love while love and beauty aid. Those sparkling eyes are brighter than gems that glow on kingly brow of those of veil, and yet they fade, for joy will quail when time or shame, then love while love and beauty aid.
I dance and sing.
And love, and love, and love, and love, and
While Maritana nurses these dreams, Don Jose's plot is hatching. He will use the king's innocent infatuation for Maritana to persuade the queen of her husband's infidelity. But first, he needs a dupe. Enter, right on cue, Don Cesar de Bazan, sung by the tenor Justin Lavender, a penniless but good-natured knight who survives on his wits, his dueling skills, and a smart ability to evade his creditors. The impetuous Don Cesar learns of a royal edict banning sword dueling. But being a soft-hearted, salt-of-the-earth type, he's almost at once caught up in a tussle. He attempts to free a terrified apprentice boy, Lazarillo, a mezzo-soprano travesty role sung by Leah Marion Jones, who's pursued by guards whilst fleeing his cruel master. Don Cesar challenges and wounds the pursuing captain, and is at once arrested by the Alcalde, or royal police commander. Our hapless hero is thus doomed. Naturally, everyone throws in his or her tuppennyworth, above all the horrified Maritana, who promises to find gold for Don Cesar's ransom as he's ignominiously hauled off to jail.
Farewell, my gallant captain. I told you how 'twould be. Farewell, my gallant captain. I told you how 'twould be. Farewell, my gallant captain. I told you how 'twould be. Farewell, my gallant captain. I told you how 'twould be. You'll not forget the lesson due to me. You'll not forget the lesson due to me. Farewell, my gallant captain. I told you how 'twould be. In the day, I know a restless day, a restless day. In the day, must surely pay. If his life must surely pay. I support him for this quarrel. If his life must surely pay. If his life must surely pay.
Free the gallant captain stray, gladly I'll his ransom pay.
Generous creature, they'll not fear you.
I'll withhold his ransom pay.
All good angels ever near you. Let us fly our something someday. Here's a night we all must pay.
In Act 2 of Maritana, we are in Madrid's prison fortress. Don Cesar is asleep as he shares the fate of that other famous operatic prisoner, Cavaradossi. The clock chimes 5. His hour of execution is fast approaching. With him is the faithful Lazarillo, who laments his master's fate and sings over his sleeping form what amounts to a gentle lullaby, alas, those chimes so sweetly stealing. Edward Fitzball's text has been referred to as the literary level of a Christmas card. But how they must have loved it in 1840's Philadelphia and New York, both of which staged Maritana soon after its London premiere. As Lazarillo ceases singing, the condemned man wakes up. His pleasant dreams are over. He has 2 grim hours to face, till death by hanging. Lazarillo urges Don Cesar not to give up. He still has time to extract a royal reprieve, and faithfully the lad sets off to seek it. Don Jose, however, has other ideas. He puts forward a proposal. If Don Cesar agrees to marry an unknown veiled lady, he will not be hanged, but will be shot instead. To Don Cesar, anything seems better than a common felon's death. Even if George Bernard Shaw found Don Cesar's next aria to contain somewhat less than great poetry, its umpa rhythms and Heldon tenor manner was one of those items that endeared Maritana to Victorian audiences for many a decade.
Yes, let me like a soldier fall upon some open plain, this breast expanding for the bow to blot out every stain. Brave manly hearts confirm my doom, that gentler ones may tell. However forgot unknown my tomb, I like a soldier fell. However forgot unknown my tomb, I like a soldier fell. I like a soldier fell. I only ask of that proud race which ends its blaze in me, to die the last and not disgrace its ancient chivalry. Though I claim no banner wave, no trumpet reckion swell, enough they murmur on my grave, he like a soldier fell. Enough they murmur on my grave, he like a soldier fell. He like a soldier fell.
Maritana is duly fetched, and her marriage to Don Cesar takes place. But now he's dispensable. Don Jose conveniently ignores the reprieve which Lazarillo brings in recognition of Don Cesar's former services, and proceeds to the execution. As the guards fraternize with their victim, the boy removes the bullets from their guns. But unlike Cavaradossi in Tosca, Don Cesar gets up when the firing squad has gone, and escapes in monk's disguise in search of his unknown spouse. We now change scene to the castle where Maritana is being held. She has only just declined the king's advances when Don Cesar bursts in. The lady of the house gamely poses as his wife and nearly deceives Don Cesar into signing his marital rights away. But suddenly Maritana's voice is heard nearby. The ruse misfires. Unexpectedly, the pace changes. Who are the mysterious pair, and what is all the kerfuffle about? Before anyone tells us, Don Cesar is rearrested and led off. And if all this really makes for melodrama or opera buffa, need we complain? It certainly makes for a humdinger of a finale.
That voice, 'tis hers, I swear. Beware, beware, beware. Say voice, 'tis hers, 'tis hers, thy life. I'll seek thy life. We'll seek thy life. Lo, a criminal before you fled from justice. God with life, God with life. But an instant I implore you, but an instant I implore you, just to know who is my wife. But an instant I implore you, but an instant I implore you, but an instant, no, it must be just to know it is my wife. No, 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 it must not be. No, it must
Act 3 finds Maritana alone in a magnificent but alien castle apartment. Just the right moment for that lyric song we've been waiting for. Wearily, she surveys the fineries that surround her and realizes the dreams of riches are as nothing compared with the loss of her husband. Thus she launches into one of the most celebrated of all 19th century British opera arias. Poor Maritana clearly needs a companion. Enter the king with a glint in his eye. But even as he makes love to Maritana, posing as her unknown husband, he's foiled again. Don Cesar climbs in the window, where else, and tartly challenges his royal liege. A comic mix-up follows. The king claims to be Don Cesar. Don Cesar, quick as a flash, claims to be the king. Luckily, his Spanish Majesty lets slip news of the crucial pardon, and hence proof that Don Jose should never have carried out the execution in the first place. Cesar and Maritana are left alone. Who are you? I am thy husband, Don Cesar de Bazan, he sings. But still Maritana needs confirmation. Can he prove it?
Is it thus we meet?
That voice!
Once more we meet. 'Tis Maritana.
Yes, Maritana.
Yes, I'll prove it. I said, remember the rest of my existence I devote to thee. The rest of my existence I devote to thee. This joy my heart o'erflowing, like nectar sparkling wine, sweet magic rapid flowing, wakes in ecstasy divine. This joy my heart o'erflowing, like nectar sparkling wine. Yes, this joy my heart o'erflowing, like nectar sparkling wine, sweet magic rapid flowing, wakes in ecstasy
As Maritana and Don Cesar reach an ecstatic climax for the second time around, Lazarillo rushes in with bad news. Guards are approaching. Maritana urges Don Cesar to escape and flee to the Queen, who alone can save them. Don Cesar leaves by his favourite window, leaving Maritana and Lazarillo, with perhaps a hint of Mozart's Cherubino, to sing an affecting duet, a stylish parody of popular sacred music.
Guide his footsteps
Just as Don Cesar returns, re-enter the king. The throne is in danger. It is time for action. Locking the door, Don Cesar informs His Majesty he has overheard Don Jose slandering the king as an adulterer. But vengeance has been swift. Armed with this evidence of double treachery, Don Cesar has already run the villain through. Now he must beg the king's pardon. It is readily granted, guards and courtiers rush in, and the king forthwith appoints his new champion governor of Valencia. Naturally, at this happy ending, Maritana bursts into song. Viva Maritana, sings the chorus at the end of William Vincent Wallace's Spanish romance. And indeed, she certainly did live long. Maritana was still being staged 100 years later, though sadly she's languished for the last half-century. In this new BBC studio recording, Majella Cullach sang the title role of Maritana, Justin Lavender sang Don Cesar, Peter Sidham, Don Jose, and Leah Marion Jones the part of Lazarillo, with the chorus of the Royal Opera House Covent Garden and the BBC Concert Orchestra conducted by James Lockhart. Next week, we exchange a Spanish lady for a Bohemian girl brought to life by another neglected Victorian composer, Michael William Balfe. I do hope you'll join me then.
And you can join Roderic Dunnett again for Brittania at the Opera next Monday lunchtime, at the same time, 12 noon.